Hello.
Hello, are we on?
Alright.
Sound test, mic test. Yeah. Mic check. Alright.
Alright. What's up, Keegan?
Oh, wait, we're actually doing this.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
it's
It's time again to start putting out episodes. We've been gone for a while. What's been going on?
Well, Nick, we're really going to use this footage, right? Oh, man, okay.
We're not using any footage.
Okay. So, what's been going on? Been hard at work this summer. This summer I'm working for an organization called Adventure Serve Ministries. Shout out. What they do is they connect groups, youth groups, church groups, any sort of group, with service project opportunities while planning a wilderness, outdoor recreation trip for them. So they'll do a few days of service project and then canoe, rock climb, rappel, whitewater, backpack, everything. Anything that they want to do, they get to choose. So it's a cool organization. It's based in Wilmore, Kentucky. Great people. Love working for them, that kind of thing. So I've been doing that since May and doing that for the rest of the summer. But yeah, it's a good opportunity to, get out into the woods more, train. And they're wilderness directors, so I'm planning all their trips, training their wilderness staff, like all their guides I train, and supporting their trips when they need support, that kind of deal,
Yeah.
And you've been out on a few trips with me, supporting all of that too.
Yeah, and we'll probably interview one of the people from there.
Yeah, Andy,
because I
the
reached
executive
out
director.
to him.
You did?
Yeah, on our Instagram page, I believe.
Nice.
I reached out to him.
Nice.
So.
Who?
Well, I reached out to Adventure Serve on
gotcha.
Instagram or Twitter.
Gotcha.
And someone got back to me and they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to." And then
perfect.
you told me that he wanted to.
Oh yeah, Andy's been subtly talking about it sometimes. Be like, so how's the podcast? Like, yeah. He's
Andy.
A few times he's been like, yeah, I mean, we'd love to talk on it, or something, implying he wants to talk on it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, perfect.
We'll let him do that.
That'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to keep reaching out to people like that too throughout the community, because not only do I think this is a great chance to show people in Kentucky what all is here.
Yes.
Because that's something I've been thinking of. Is do I want this to sound like a local podcast? Because I see those, advertised the Wilmore or whatever, or the Kentucky whatever.
Right.
And it's I don't want this just to be a Kentucky thing.
Right.
But I think it'll be great to show off what we have here in Kentucky.
Sure.
Because people come from all over the world to come to Kentucky to do rock climbing, whatever else. So
climb the red.
I think that'll be pretty cool to do too.
It would be really cool. This is where we live. And I think this is something that Andy told me a few weeks ago. He's like, the backyard wilderness is forgotten. When everybody thinks about wilderness, they think of Yosemite, or they think of Red River Gorge out there, or they think of the big national parks that have been established and are well traveled. But people forget that right in their backyards there's wilderness. There's wildlands right here in Jessamine County. We have Jessamine Creek Gorge, we have Buckley Wildlife Reserve, we have Ravens Run, we have all of these places are within 30 minutes driving, and you can be in a wild place. And so Andy, who's my boss, really wants people to know that they can get outdoors easier and closer than they think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing to talk about.
But it's been pretty fun going out there with you guys.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been just kind of cooped up every once in a while, and so I've been pretty happy to get out there and hang out.
Yeah, man. And that's what it's about, dude. Getting out there. We have done... So you went out on a few trips with us. You went caving,
yes.
right? We went caving, supported the cave, and then a couple rock climb rappel days.
Yeah.
Done that, too. We rock climbed and rappelled in Red River Gorge, and went to a secret wall, so that will not be mentioned on the podcast, to do a climb for 40 participants, 40 middle schoolers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was middle school kids. Yeah. We did 2 climbs and we did 2 rappels, and one of those rappels was huge. It's like 130 feet.
Yeah, it was nice.
It was a big one. It was awesome. It was a great day for it too. And I was a little nervous setting all that day up for like the 40 kids because that's a lot of people, and we didn't want people to be waiting around. So we split them up, and we did 20 and 20. So 20 went on a hike to Gray's Arch, and then the other 20 were with us at the wall, and then they switched halfway through the day to kind of facilitate that. But it went really well.
Yeah, it went way better than I expected. I was pretty nervous going into it because, like, I've been around a bunch of students. Like, I've been around students and going on trips like that. Mm-hmm. But I was just one of, like, the leaders.
Yeah.
I was just, like, one of the youth people, like, just kind of overseeing. I was, like, in the experience as well.
Right.
And then you have the guides. And they seem so calm. They seem so chill.
Right.
And, like, they're just standing there a lot, which is what I observed. Then I was like, oh, that would probably be really easy to be one of those guys.
Right.
But then, whenever you tell me, like, yeah, come out with me and we're going to leave, like, super early because we have to set everything up. It's like, not only do you have to, like, load stuff into the van, then you have to, like, carry
hike it out there.
You have to hike it up with you.
Yeah.
And you have to set it all up. You have to find the spots if you don't exactly know where some spots are.
Oh, and when we were out there before this trip was happening, we were doing some scouting for this trip. It took us 3.5 hours to find this wall.
Yeah.
Like, we had some written directions from previous, like, employees with Adventure before us. We had never actually been to the wall ourselves before that day. And so we went out there during training to try and find this wall. It took us so long to find it. And, dude, it's out there. Like, the behind-the-scenes stuff that you have to set up for, when you're running a trip or managing a trip, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that, and then, like, setting up the rappel, it really isn't all that hard.
No.
Necessarily. But it's just, and once you have it set up properly, it's the most safe thing in the world.
Right.
But if you like mess up in one spot, it's the most unsafe thing in the world.
That's why, like, as a guy, you try and make everything redundant.
Yeah.
Because, and you also get eyes on everything you did. Like, oh, is that not good? And I think so. Check that for me.
Right.
And then, like, if I did mess up a knot, like, I have redundant knots, some stuff like that.
But. Well, and I even had a moment where I was, like, setting up that small rappel for a student. And I was, like, getting everything set up, going through it all. I was, like, clipping stuff back together.
Uh-huh.
And before I, like, got to a certain clip, he was like, shouldn't that clip be tightened? And I was like, yeah, it should be tightened. Thanks for showing that to me. And everything. It's like I was getting to it. And then at one point, I was proud of the kid because I was like, oh, awesome! Like, he noticed this. And
right.
I'm sure when you're, like, afraid for your life, you're looking for things, Yeah. And then at the same time, I was like, does this student think I don't know what I'm doing?
Right.
Like, I know what I'm doing. You're the student. You be quiet. If you're gonna die, you're gonna die. I know what I'm doing.
There's a lot of moving pieces, especially when you're running a day like that, and when you're in charge of a day like that, because. You don't only have the participants, but you have the staff. You have to make sure the staff are doing it right, and then you have to make sure you're doing it right. Yeah. And then you have to make sure that not only are you doing it right, but, like, we've worked for different people before doing different things. So it's like, is Adventure Serves, is their standard operating procedure the same as what I've been taught, or is there something different? And, am I mixing the two, or am I sticking to one? And, that's where things go wrong. So, you got to go with your muscle memory on how you've done some things and really think about each thing you're doing. My great-granddad used to say, you have to think at all times. And especially when you're out in the wild.
Right.
You have to think at all times.
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of the redundancy thing too, because I think that puts a lot of people at ease when you see, like, oh, I've got this knot and it's not going anywhere.
Right.
But I'm still going to do this knot.
Yeah, just
and then
in case.
we're going to do this.
Yeah. Safety knots, and I think that it goes a long way too when you walk the participants through exactly how the system works.
Yeah.
So, like, we've trained our staff, and you did it too, when you're up there, you're like, here's an ATC, here are the teeth on ATC, feel that with your finger. This is how it stops the rope when it goes through. This is how you hold it. And so if you explain every part of it so nothing's magic to them, like nothing's a mystery, they understand how the system operates, then they feel a lot more comfortable. And you can see that, like, when you front load them into the activity, they get more out of the activity when they're doing it. And there are people too that think, like, what do I have to gain And we even saw that from the participants. What do I have to gain from a rock climbing or rappelling day?
Yeah.
You know, even some of them, like, you know, their heads in, they're like, why are we even, like, doing this right now? What do you think that there is to gain from a rock climbing or rappelling day?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Well, I just speak from my own experience
Sure.
from doing that, which is that for me, rock climbing it didn't start off at least as the most fun thing to do.
Uh-huh.
And at times it isn't.
Right.
Because I get pretty challenged. I can get pretty prideful. I can get pretty upset if I feel like I'm not good enough to make the climb.
Right.
Like I was out on a climb not too long ago with Katie and 2 others, like last year, and all 3 of them did the climb. The guy who set up the climb technically did it twice because he had to take it all down.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get up the climb. I got halfway, and I felt like I was doing really good too, but I got halfway up, and I just couldn't get it. And I kept trying and trying because I wasn't like pansying out.
Right.
I was like just trying and trying and trying, and I'm sure there's something different I could have done to get up it, and that just irritates me like crazy. And for someone to see me not be able to do it, it just like ruins me.
It's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's a whole nother level.
Right.
Like in front of whenever we were doing when we were staging the climb in front of the students, and I was showing them how to do stuff.
Right.
The very first foothold I put my foot on to climb up that thing, which is like practically like steps.
Right.
I slipped off of it.
Uh-huh.
Right in front of all the students. And I was just like, oh great. This is awesome. And then just doing that really simple, easy climb just up to that first landing in front of like 20 students.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, I hope I don't slip and mess up. This would be so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And so even the most simple things on a rock climb for me can be the most terrifying. And but I've been in like a multi-pitch situation where the person's ahead of me and can't even see me.
Right.
And I definitely feel more comfortable and whatnot, but it's also like, oh, I can get away with like cheating a little bit. You know, and not cheating as in like necessarily pulling on an anchor or something like that. But cheating is in like using my arms too much and not using proper technique.
Right.
Or like putting my knee on the rock to try and get up or something weird, like to step on it. So
hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
So it's all about pride for me when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to rappelling, I think the thing I get out of the most the first time I did it was just that fear of trusting the rope, trusting that this person has everything set up for me, and trusting that like I'm gonna have a good time going down this thing.
Yeah.
I think all those fears, and everyone has different fears, but those were definitely mine, and I still have a hard time rock climbing in front of people, which is always. But I get over it more and more each time I do it, I think.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that the rock climb rappel day is really important to the trip. I try to put the rock climb rappel day at the front end of the trip, like as close to the beginning of the trip as possible, because I feel like you can set the tone that way, because you can set the tone of, one, you know, we're getting pushed out of our comfort zone. A lot of people, that's something they don't normally get to do. It's scary, and sometimes they might not even necessarily like to do it, but there's positive stress and positive pressure, you know, positive peer pressure for them to do it. And not just from their peers, positive pressure they put on themselves. I want to be able to do it, you know? So they'll try, and I want them to succeed, you know, when they do try in that, and then they carry that positive pressure into the rest of the week. Like, I pushed myself on the rock climb. I'm going to push myself the rest of the week.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to carry that attitude into it. And then, you know, so I want that at the beginning. And then also, like, it's just fundamentally builds trust, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and especially when, you know, my staff, their guides, they're the ones belaying them. So, like, we're building trust between the participants and their guides now, you know? And so now they're going to feel more comfortable accepting my guides as professionals. And when my guides lead their devotions, you know, they're going to respect that. You know, they're going to respect their guides' opinions. They're going to be more prone to probably trust their guides and their groups. And, you know, if you can open up to one person on a trip, it's easier to open up to other people. And so, like, you know, when they're building that trust with the guides, they're also building it with each other. You know, maybe not directly in the activity, but in a roundabout way, they will be, you know. And so it opens them up to be able to trust for the rest of the trip, too. It sets that tone. So I think that there's a lot of subtle things to be gained from the rock climbing rappelling day. Not just, that it's fun, but it does something to you, attitude-wise and emotion-wise that will set the tone for the rest of the trip. I think it's important to do. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what outdoor recreation is all about, right? It's not just the activity that's fun, but it's like there's more behind it. There's a character improvement through it, if you do it the right way.
Yeah. Something I also notice is that sometimes you can get out there and you can let it defeat you. So like I'd see some students try and do the rock climbing and they just weren't getting it.
Yeah.
There's this one student that was really short and skinny, and he was having the worst time. Right. Like the harness was like just fitting enough and everything. Yeah. So tight. I don't even think the shoes fit him. Climbing shoes. Like I think he was just wearing tennis shoes. And he was doing okay, but he gets to like this crucial point where either you're gonna go up higher or you're not.
Yeah.
And he just like couldn't get past it.
Yeah.
And he finally gets down, and it's one of those things where it didn't seem to destroy him. It didn't seem to cause him to stop doing things or to stop having fun. And some people it can do that. But I think what's also so great about it is throughout the week, like you can be humbled by that first initial thing that you have to do, which rock climbing can easily do for you.
Yeah.
Or the idea of going off this 100-foot cliff can definitely put that fear into you. Mm-hmm. And throughout the week, you can either let that defeat you, or you can keep pushing and trying the new things that we have. So you might end up realizing, like, man, I just couldn't do the rock climb, but I was the only one who didn't flip my canoe.
Right.
Or like everyone like ran into that root wad, but I like skirted right past it. Different things like that I think people can conquer if they just keep pushing, and I think that could be really beneficial for people too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that we don't afford ourselves the opportunity to be defeated and learn from it, because we try to avoid defeat at all costs in everyday life because there's real consequences and everything. But when you're out in the wild and on a trip like that, in that environment where there's risk, but it's also like controlled, it's a controlled environment. When you are defeated or when you do fail at something, like you have this situation now where you have intentionally placed yourself in an environment where you can fail, where there's not too big a consequence and you can learn from it. And that's a training that we don't often get. Because most of the time our failures carry real world consequences that we don't really learn from because we're so focused on the consequences themselves. But in a trip environment that we're in, if you fail, the only consequence that you can have is not learning from it. Is letting it defeat you, is that which you inflict on yourself. And so I'm proud of that kid because he didn't let it defeat him. And he kept trying, and that's what we want, because that's a training that we don't normally get. We don't normally get to train ourselves to stand back up after we're defeated, especially in everyday life. But we want to create those situations because that's what we want to develop, right?
Yeah. And I think that was really fun for me to witness on that trip. Is like I was saying before, whenever I was just one of the people on the trip, I saw these instructors and I was like, oh, okay, like they're just kind of sitting around making sure nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you realize how much more goes into it.
Yeah.
You realize all the preparation, you realize all the advice and kind of counseling you're doing for these people who are going up, even some of the adults. Like I had to encourage the adults too.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh no, like you got this, yeah, just do that. And everything, because even the adults who seem all big and bad, like they can be just as fearful.
Yeah.
Maybe they've gone their entire lives and haven't actually challenged themselves to do that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they see all these like junior hires doing it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh man, like I need to do this now.
Yeah.
And so that was a really fun experience, and just getting to realize the intensity of the situation, but also just the joy and the fun of it. It's a really great experience. Mm-hmm. And thinking back to when we talked to Trent and about the idea of like how to start up an outdoor adventure, business, doing this type of stuff for sure. It's just realizing, just getting yourself out there and doing it.
Yeah.
Just gives you one, so much confidence if it goes well.
Yeah.
And also it just gives you that joy and that passion to just want to keep going back out there.
Absolutely.
Because after I got home, that like past couple times, I just looked at I was like, I'm done. We need to start doing this. Like, this needs to happen.
It's a passion for sure. It's a passion more than a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'm super glad that we got the opportunity to do that this summer and to lead groups and plan trips and do everything that we wanted to do, and get paid pennies for it. But hey, that's what, it's not what it's about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and so what that means, I think, is for me with this podcast for sure, it's giving me more, I think, ideas of things to talk about, especially for our growing business. It's giving me ideas for what to do for that, how to apply things in different ways. In these past weeks, month, doing this Adventure Surf stuff, for the business and just for advice for the podcast listeners, like, what do you think is probably some of the greatest things that you've learned doing this so far this summer?
What you put in on the front end really, really helps you on the back end. So, like, planning and preparation can't be underestimated, especially when you're planning a trip. Because when you're in the wild, if you forgot one thing, you can't just go back for it. You must plan for everything. You must take the time to do that. And, and we live in such a fast-paced culture that sitting down and taking the time to plan something in a slow, methodical manner is very unappealing to a lot of people. And also, like, something we're not practiced at. We're always go, go, go. And stuff's always prepared for us already. We get to our job and we already know what to do. The person before us has already trained us. All our stuff is prepared. The programs are already on the computer,
Yeah.
But it's not so with wilderness backpacking. Nothing's prepared for you. You take everything with you and you explore and discover on your own, and you're responsible for yourself. So you have to take that time to really think about everything that you're going to do. What am I going to do when I go to sleep? What am I going to use for shelter? What am I going to sleep in? Am I going to bring a sleeping pad? That kind of thing. Like, am I going to bring a hammock? What's the weather going to be like? You have to actually consider that. Most people don't even look at the weather. You just, because you don't have to. You're in buildings all day, right? You have to consider those things. You have to consider what you're going to eat. You have to consider how it's going to be prepared on the trail. You have to consider if you're going to be able to make a cook fire, if you're going to bring a cooking stove. You got to consider how you're going to pack your backpack. You don't want your gasoline next to your food because then you're going to have gassy food. You don't want that stuff. Like, you have to be methodical in your preparation. And for me, that's hard because I'm not a planning person. I'm a doing person. I like to do stuff, and I think that planning's boring. But I've really learned that planning is super, super important, especially for this line of work, because it's not so simple if something goes wrong. It's not so simple, so you have to plan for that. And again, like, I think that's what's most appealing to me also about wilderness adventures is that you're so self-reliant, because it's one of the few places where self-reliance and independence is true. Like, in regular life, you're not really self-reliant. You're super reliant on everyone and everything, in order to get by. But out in the woods, you truly are, if something goes wrong, the only person who can solve it is you. Mm-hmm. And that's very appealing to me. And, I like that. So that's something I've learned, is definitely preparing and taking the time to do that, slowing it down, not being so focused on the doing that you forget about the details of the doing. Another thing that I've learned is how powerful small experiences can be. Looking at the participants on their rock climbing days or their canoe days or their cave days, and it's small interactions with one another, with the environment, that can really make a profound impact on them. Like, a girl that takes a whole hour to climb the climb and cries the whole way up, but doesn't stop. That kind of perseverance. Yeah. she's practicing perseverance is what she's doing. She doesn't even know that that's what she's doing. She thinks she's just climbing a wall, but she's practicing and training her body and mind to persevere through things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something she won't get to do in everyday life. But it's something she gets to do here and now without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And that small hour, in the grand scheme of her life, who knows what profound impact that could have, on what she's going to be like. Because now, in that 1 hour of training, she now has one more hour of training to be perseverant than she did before.
Mm-hmm.
What difference could that make? It could make the world of difference. She could choose to persevere in a place where she wouldn't have chosen otherwise if she hadn't gotten the practice to do it. And not just physically, spiritually, emotionally, everything, perseverance. Or, the kid who decides to challenge himself when he hasn't before. And he now starts a habit of being able to challenge himself that he hadn't started before. And he can carry that, further out. Or, people may have become best friends on this trip, and they carry that back into. But these small experiences can have a profound impact if you let them. And it could be in ways that are not noticeable, That girl might not know that she's more perseverant now, but she is. That guy might not know that he's braver now, but he is. Because he trained himself to be braver subconsciously by doing something brave.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen that. And I've also seen that in my staff because, at the beginning of the summer, they were in a certain spot and we went through all of our trainings, went through all of our trips, and it changes them just being out in the woods. Now they're so much more confident. Like, they're just better leaders. Just they're training themselves to be confident leaders. Like, you'll never be what you don't train yourself to do.
Yeah. And
seeing that change in them is really encouraging. And I think, we have outside to thank for that. We have those situations to thank for that,
Right.
And that's really cool. It's a profound impact, man. It's a training ground. The outdoors, it's a training ground for your character, for your mind, for your body. And it's unique because you don't get to train that almost anywhere else,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people can be really surprised. It's like your dad was talking to us, like, when a business guy comes up to you and is like, what is my staff going to get out of canoeing?
Right.
What is my staff going to get out? There are so many things that people don't realize can correlate with better character or, like, better things in their life. Yeah. Like, I was listening to this podcast from Outside Magazine, and the dude was on a ketogenic diet, and he was one of those, like, run walkers or whatever. And so they did this insane test on all these people and to see if people with a high carb diet would be better at running or if people on a low carb diet would be better at run walking, whatever it's called. And they got to the end of the study and they saw that these people who were on the keto diet were running faster whenever they got off the diet. And as if this diet helped them enhance their run walking. Right. But he says that, like, 5 months later, he did another run and ran even faster than that time, but he hadn't been on a keto diet. And what he realized was just the weeks of just the grueling diet and the running and all that stuff just trained his mind to realize that he can suffer through more things than he used to.
That's absolutely what it is.
Yeah, and so he knew that whenever he was running, I think it was like an Olympic race or something, when he was doing it, he could just push through things even harder because he knew that he could do it. And that's what I think people will realize, like, what am I going to get out of carrying this huge backpack through the woods for a week? What am I going to get out of all this? It's like, you'd be really surprised what you'll get out of it.
You'd be very surprised. And the thing is, like, this is something that, it's a long-term impact, and people like short-term results.
Yeah.
We like to see things happen right away, but this is a long-term thing.
Yeah.
And I like that example you brought up because, like, through the diet, he trained himself to be disciplined, right? He disciplined himself through that diet. And he took that discipline training into his running.
Right.
And it made him a better runner. Two totally unrelated things, Being disciplined in what you do and do not eat directly correlates with being disciplined and choosing whether to or not to run.
Yeah.
And he did that, right? And that reminds me of a quote I read the other day. I'm going to butcher it, I don't know. It was Warren Buffett's, that guy who's like a billionaire or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's not the smartest people who win, it's the people who are most disciplined. And it's like you can be super smart, and you can win all the awards or whatever, and you can have the potential to do great things.
Yeah.
But if you're not disciplined, then it's just going to be potential.
Yeah.
It will never bear fruit, right? But you can be, not as smart, average, but if you are disciplined and every single day you take steps towards your goal, you'll reach it.
Yeah.
And
just to show how even farther reaching discipline and learning that in the wilderness can be, I'm listening to this book for my class, and it's based on a lot about like addiction. And there will be these moments where, say Hannah was a drug addict,
right?
Okay, and you're trying to help her get better, and you love her so much, and you think that your love for her is going to keep you guys together through this grueling process. And she's in rehab, she's trying to get better, and she's just like, I just want to do the heroin. And you're like, Hannah, no,
you can't do the heroin.
Right, our relationship.
You can't do the heroin.
Your life.
Yeah.
And but it turns out that it doesn't matter how much you love somebody if that relationship's going to work or not. It matters how disciplined you are in your relationship.
Interesting.
As to if your relationship's going to work out.
Yeah.
You and Hannah can love each other as much as you want, but if there's no discipline in your relationship,
right,
then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean that's totally right. You're right. Everything, you'll never do what you don't train yourself to do.
Yeah.
That's just it. And like when my dad asked us that question, I love that he asked that. He's like, people are going to ask you, like, what good will we get out of doing these recreational activities?
Yeah.
How will this help my employees? How will this help everything? And that's my answer is you'll never do what you don't train yourself to do. And I bet you guys are not training yourselves to be good team workers.
Right.
I bet you're not training yourselves to be confident. I bet you're not training yourselves, to persevere in these things. I bet that is happening sometimes organically, but I bet you don't have designated spaces for that stuff to train. Right. That's what we want to sell.
Oh, yeah.
This is a designated space for you to train yourself to be what you want to be.
Right. It's like you may love your job so much. You may love this company you built from the ground up so much. You may hate the job, but you love your family so much that you're willing to go into work every day and get that paycheck. All that's going to fail if you don't have these basic, qualities for yourself.
Right.
And the outdoors is a perfect place to do it.
It's training ground.
We're talking to your dad about like baking a cake or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Going to some restaurant and it's just like, that's not going to do it for you, man.
Right.
I was like, but we get you out here in this environment that sucks for you, that you're not used to. Like, that's going to get you.
Yeah, you have to. Like, you're forced physically to be disciplined. You can't eat all your rations day one.
Yeah. Plus, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Plus, have you heard of this, 3-day rule idea?
No, what's that?
In the woods. It's this idea, I can't remember if it's, proven or not, but I was listening to it on this outdoor podcast, because they took these women out in the woods who had been sex trafficked.
Oh, yeah,
and everything, or in prostitution and all this other stuff. And, they got out, they're, in this program, they're getting better, and so they go out into the woods as part of their therapy process, and they get better. And they wanted to test out this 3-day effect, which is the idea that once you've been out in the woods for 3 days, your brain starts to adapt and starts to change. It starts to release certain chemicals for your body.
Okay.
When you're out in the woods and you're not so focused on the fast paces of life, like the 20,000 commercials on TV, the images going 100 miles per hour in your brain, your brain finally has a chance to relax and calm down. It's not hearing as much or seeing as much, and you're not thinking as much. After about 3 days, your body just kind of relaxes, especially your brain. And they say that it can just provide you this really great comforting experience. Even if the first day or second day you're really anxious, they say at least by the 3rd day people usually start to calm down and start to feel safe out in the woods, and they start to feel better. And then when they go back into their work life or their regular life, they're able to function a lot better because their brain's kind of reset a little bit, as if you got a massage or did something like that.
That makes sense to me.
And I think that for people like that in those work environments, they do think so much about their work. They think so much about their job. And if you can get them out there in that experience, hopefully for 3 or more days, you can get them to stop thinking about their job in all the details so much and actually just think about themselves.
Right.
You know, so many families will want to go on a trip like this to fix the family.
Right.
All they're doing is thinking about the family's function as if it were a business too.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
but if they could just stop and think about themselves and, you know, just the basic needs of their family,
Yeah.
then they'd start to realize, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what the Johnsons think of us so much. I'm worried about,
Yeah.
you know, my kid not wanting to do the youth group stuff that well.
Right.
I'm thinking about how my kid just got an F on his report card.
Right.
You're thinking about all these things that people think and all these external ideas that you think affect your family, but you're not thinking about you. You're not thinking about your kid.
There's no like introspective thought.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's no self-reflection on, you know, we see what happens, you know, on a surface level, and just think about it at surface level, you know, and we don't think about the underlying causes. We don't think about ourselves in the context of what happened, you know.
Yeah.
No self-reflection. Like there's just, and like it's not necessarily the individual's fault. Like there's just no time for self-reflection. It's like, you know, like when is it built into a daily routine to self-reflect? Maybe when you're driving to and from work, maybe, you know, unless you discipline yourself to create that space. It's not conducive to everyday life. You know, it's so busy, so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually, in the past semesters, I almost never got a moment of like stopping.
Yeah.
Until I actually would go to class some days. Because in class, at the beginning of the day, they'd be like, all right, we're just going to take some time and just like meditate.
Yeah.
We're just going to take some time, close our eyes, and just focus on like what's happening now. And for some of those students, that was the first time they probably so looked forward to going to class.
Yeah.
Just because they knew that was like built in
Right.
as a structure of their day. You know, in like kindergarten and pre-K, we have like nap time
Right.
built into our day.
Right.
Or whatever else. And after a while, we forget that, we need rest time.
Yeah.
You know, we need these things. In grade school, we have recess.
Yeah.
All these moments. And I think that, you know, it's like, I heard someone say, like, you can always work out. You have time to work out. You have time to meditate. You have time to do this. Because if all of a sudden your tire popped, you would make time to go get your car fixed.
Huh.
You know, if your kid, like, was sick and throwing up in the bathroom,
right.
you would find a way to potentially stay home from work, or you would find a way to like take him to the doctor.
Right.
You would find ways to do every day. You find ways to do these things that pop up.
Right.
And so if you just treated that like an emergency,
interesting,
then eventually it would become such a part of your schedule that it wouldn't feel like something you have to frantically plan.
That's a cool mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to really prioritize. Yeah. Like, yeah, you gotta prioritize because, that's what it is. That's a really interesting mindset. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, because we've forgotten that, like, we focus on eating. Some people don't even do that. And sleeping. Some people don't even do that. So, of course, we don't think much about, like, our mental health.
Right.
Or, like, our physical health all the time because we're focused on our work and
right.
all these other things.
Yeah, a lot of people can barely take care of themselves physically. So it's like, and everything's connected. So if you're not taking care of yourself physically, like, you're probably not mentally either.
Yeah,
you know,
which means you're probably gonna do horrible at your job.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, it's all connected, man. It's all connected. Very interesting. That's what we want. You know, that's what we want for our company. That's what we want for our life, is to live simple, make things simple, and try and help people to be the best self they can be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not be caught up in the lies they tell themselves, or be caught up in the busyness of life so much, and really provide a space for self-improvement, character development. You know, not saying that, like, we're great at that. You know, I'm not supreme character, you know, not, anything like that. But I just, have seen and acknowledged the fact that the outdoors has helped me to become a better person, and would like it to help other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I think that'd be a good stop.
How much time are we at?
We're at like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that we should spend the rest of our time talking about some upcoming things and fun news that we have.
Great idea.
So, number one bit of news is we have merchandise. We have some t-shirts on Amazon, hoodies,
cool stuff.
Pop Socket on Etsy. we'll have a store up there, and that's going to have, like, mugs, all kinds of fun things.
Nick's wearing a shirt right now. Looks really good on him.
I'm currently wearing a Bear Burrito shirt that my wife and I ordered. And she's got one on right now, too, testing it out to make sure it looks good. And it looks good.
It does look good.
And it's soft. It's the premium shirt, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
I'll post a picture of it, too. But we have that. We also have a Patreon account. If you don't know what a Patreon account is, it's essentially like a way to donate a certain amount of money each month. Think of like your Netflix subscription or Hulu or YouTube TV or something like that. And the reason why we're doing this, the reason why we're putting out merch, the reason why we're doing Patreon is because we want to be able to upload more episodes.
Yeah.
And we can't do that on our hosting website if we don't have money. We also want to be able to do like more things. We want to have like a well-functioning website.
Yes.
You know, and that costs money as well to have like our own domain name. We have to have money for that.
We want to make more dumb videos.
Yeah, we want to make videos and all that stuff too. And right now we have the goal set at like $50 a month. Because that's pretty much even like how much it would cost to do those things, to have the website and to put out more episodes. Because right now we just have 3 through 7 and whatnot. So we want to be able to have all of them up.
Yes.
And so if you guys could help us out with that, that'd be so awesome. I'll have the link to all that stuff available for you guys. And you can obviously go to our website. It's like bearburrito.wix.com/home.
Right.
You know, go to our Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz, and find the links too.
Yep, find the links. So that's coming out. You know, look at that stuff. They're really quality shirts. Nick has one. It's really nice. Check out our Instagram here in a little bit because I am going to send Nick some photos to post. Hannah, who's my wife, me and her went down to Jasmine Creek Gorge recently to do like a second wedding photo shoot after being married 2 years. Ooh. And guys, pictures turned out really cool. Like, they turned out super cool. Like, I'm going to give a shout out to our photographer, too. I'll put her name on Instagram in case anybody wants to use her, get her some business. If you live in Lexington or Wilmore, Nicholasville, and you want to do, you know, some sort of outdoor photo shoot or need a wedding photographer, this girl is legitimately the best. Legitimately the best I've ever seen. So I'll post some pictures up there that you guys can see. It's really cool. Also, go check out Jasmine Creek Gorge because unbeknownst to a lot of us, there's a few people in the area that want to close Jasmine Creek Gorge, all right? Yeah, they want to close it to the public, and we need to make known that it is an amazing backyard wilderness area that is of extreme value to the community, extreme value to families around here, extreme value to me personally. I love that place. So you should go check it out. Go see the waterfall down there because there's an amazing waterfall. Go see it. And then tell all your friends about it so that we can get it, you know, well-known, decently trafficked, and so that if they do decide that they want to put it to a vote to close that place or something like that, we'll have a lot of people that have a connection with the area and can say no, that needs to stay open at all costs. 'Cause it's an amazing, amazing place.
That would be, that would suck for sure.
Would suck.
Closing down anything like that would suck.
Yeah.
So guys, be aware of that. Get out there. Put your voices out there. Bring your voices to us as well. Let us know about any ideas you have for the podcast. Any ideas you'd have, like what you think would go good on a shirt.
Yep.
I thought about us making a coffee mug that says level 5 poop on it. Like, I don't know.
That's pretty good.
Fun things like that.
Yeah.
So let us know, guys, and we hope to see you soon. Find our Instagram and all that stuff at Burrito Podcast, and I think that's where you can find us. So,
all right then. Well, looking forward to next time, Nick.
All right.
That's a wrap.
And keep it saucy.
Yeah.